By the time my face appeared above 20,000 people, my brother had already decided my life's work was worth less than a hockey ticket. My name is Evelyn Carter. I am 33 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington. The night Ryan threw my award invitation at me, I learned something I should have understood years earlier. Some families do not fail to see you by accident. Sometimes they look straight at you and choose not to care. I had brought the envelope to my parents' house carefully, tucked flat inside my purse so the corners would not bend. It was cream-colored, thick, official, with my name printed in gold under the words National Emergency Innovation Award. 4 guest seats had been reserved for my family, and even after years of being treated like the quiet daughter who fixed everyone else's problems, I still wanted them there. I placed the invitation beside my mother's serving dish and said, "I would be honored if you came." For 1 second, the table went still. Then my brother Ryan picked it up, glanced at the front, and smiled like I had handed him something embarrassing. "Who cares?" he said. "You think one nerd trophy makes you special?" Then he flicked the card across the table. It struck my chest lightly, slid down onto my lap, and landed face up against my black dress. My mother sighed instead of correcting him. My father said they already had tickets to the Kraken game. My sister Brooke muttered, "Evelyn, do not make dinner weird." I did not argue. I did not ask them to understand the hospitals, the patients, or the emergency system behind that invitation. I picked it up, smoothed the bent corner with my thumb, and said one word, "Understood." Before I tell you what happened when that same family saw me on the arena screen, comment where you are watching from right now. I want to know how far this story travels before Ryan realizes what he threw away. That invitation was not just paper to me. It was not a shiny little prize I had picked up because someone wanted to make a quiet woman feel important for one evening. It represented 11 years of work most people never saw, because the safest systems in the world are usually invisible until the moment they fail. I worked as a senior systems architect for a public health technology company in Seattle, and my team built emergency routing software for medical deliveries across Washington, Oregon, and parts of Idaho. Not regular packages, not groceries, blood for surgeries, insulin for rural clinics, anti-seizure medication for children who could not wait until morning. Small cold storage containers that had to stay within a safe temperature range while weather, traffic, wildfire smoke, or closed mountain passes tried to make every route impossible. My job was the routing brain. I wrote and tested the part of the system that decided which drone could fly, which hospital had inventory to spare, which landing zone was safe, and when a route needed to change in real time because wind shifted over a valley or a bridge closed without warning. It sounded technical because it was technical, but behind every line of code was a person waiting somewhere with a nurse watching the clock. I had spent nights at my desk until 2 in the morning, eating vending machine crackers for dinner, staring at 3 monitors while storm cells moved across a map of the Cascades. I had missed birthdays, weekend trips, and more than one family dinner because a rural clinic needed support during a test launch, or a hospital partner had found a failure we needed to fix before it became real. My family knew pieces of that. They knew I worked in technology. They knew hospitals were involved. They knew I was tired a lot. What they never cared to know was why. When the foundation called our office about the award, I honestly thought they wanted my director, Dr. Helen Morris. She was the one who gave interviews, spoke to donors, and explained our mission in language that made people lean forward. But she closed the conference room door, slid a folder across the table, and told me the nomination focused on my architecture. Inside were letters from emergency managers, rural physicians, and hospital coordinators. One doctor wrote that our system had turned distance from a sentence into a problem they could survive. I read that sentence 3 times. That was why I brought the invitation home. Not because I needed applause, because 4 seats had been saved under my name. And some foolish, stubborn part of me still wanted the people who raised me to witness one night where my quiet work came back with proof. The hardest part about being overlooked in my family was that nobody ever admitted they were doing it. If you asked my mother, Denise Carter, she would have said she loved all 3 of her children the same. If you asked my father Harold, he would have said he was proud of anyone who worked hard and stayed practical. If you asked my sister Brooke, she would have turned the question into a joke and said I was too sensitive because engineers always overanalyzed everything. But love has a pattern, and in our house, the pattern had always been clear. Ryan was the sun, Brooke was the reflection. I was the person everyone expected to keep the lights working. Ryan was 2 years older than me, loud, handsome, and good at making strangers feel like they had known him since high school. By the time he was 35, he was selling expensive homes around Seattle and calling himself a relationship-based real estate professional. My parents loved that phrase. Relationship-based sounded warmer than commission-based. It made him sound trustworthy, generous, and rooted in family values, even though most of his family values involved someone else cleaning up the parts of his life he did not want to handle. When Ryan forgot our mother's birthday reservation, I found another table. When Ryan needed help making a spreadsheet for a client appreciation event, I built it after work. When Ryan overdrafted his account in his 20s and panicked because his rent was due, I covered him quietly and accepted his promise to pay me back, which turned into a memory only I kept. Brooke was different, but not kinder. She was 36, polished, pretty, and always aware of how things looked. She ran social media for boutique businesses and treated our family like one of her accounts. Holidays had color palettes. Birthday dinners needed good lighting. Even grief, when my grandmother died, had to be photographed from the right angle because Brooke said memories deserved beauty. I used to believe she was including me when she pulled us into pictures, until I noticed how often I stood at the edge, how often my face was shadowed, how often she posted captions about sisterhood under photos where I was barely visible. And then there was me. I was the one who knew where the spare keys were, when the insurance cards expired, which medication my father could not take with grapefruit, which password reset email went to which old account, and which repair company would actually show up during a rainstorm. I became useful so early that I mistook it for being loved. In middle school, I won the regional science fair with a water filtration model I built from parts I bought at a hardware store with babysitting money. My mother hugged me quickly, then asked if I could help Ryan finish his history poster because he had a soccer game. In high school, when I received a scholarship letter for a summer engineering program, my father said it sounded impressive, then warned me not to become arrogant, because nobody liked a girl who thought she was smarter than everyone else. When I graduated near the top of my college class, Brooke posted a family photo from the ceremony where Ryan stood in the center even though he had arrived 40 minutes late, and I was half cropped behind my mother's shoulder. I told myself, none of it mattered. I told myself people showed love in different ways. I told myself that one day, if the accomplishment was big enough, clear enough, impossible enough to minimize, they would finally stop treating me like background support in my own life. That was the embarrassing truth I carried into my parents' dining room, with that cream-colored envelope in my purse. I was not asking them to understand every line of code I had written. I was not asking them to become different people overnight. I was asking them to sit in 4 reserved seats for 2 hours and witness that my life had meant something outside the errands I ran for them. But when Ryan laughed before he even knew what the award was for, I felt something colder than sadness settle into me. He had not misunderstood the invitation. My parents had not missed the meaning. Brooke had not failed to read the room. They saw a moment that mattered to me, and their first instinct was to protect themselves from having to care. The dinner had been ordinary enough to make what happened feel sharper. My parents still lived in the same 2-story house in Queen Anne where I had grown up, and that evening my mother had placed a blue and silver runner down the dining room table because the Kraken were playing at home. Ryan arrived 10 minutes late in a team hoodie under his wool coat, already acting like dinner was only a stop before the real event. Brooke came in behind him with her phone raised, filming the candles, the food, and my mother pretending not to love being recorded. I arrived on time, carrying the cream envelope in my purse like it was fragile enough to bruise. For the first 20 minutes, Ryan talked about a waterfront listing in Ballard, Brooke complained about a client, and my father kept checking the game preview on his phone under the table. My mother asked if work was still busy, but before I could answer, Ryan said busy was different when actual money was involved. Brooke laughed. My father smiled into his water glass. I almost left the envelope in my purse. I almost let the moment pass. But hope is not always loud. Sometimes, it waits until the room feels almost safe before it steps forward. When my mother cleared space near the serving bowl, I took out the envelope and placed it in the center of the table where all of them could see it. Something came in the mail last week, I said. There is a ceremony downtown on Saturday night. I have 4 guest seats reserved, and I would be honored if you came. My mother paused with the serving spoon in her hand. My father looked up from his plate. Brooke leaned closer first because the envelope looked expensive, and Brooke always respected presentation before meaning. What ceremony? She asked. I slid the card from the envelope and turned it toward them. It is for an Emergency Innovation Award. The foundation is recognizing our medical delivery network. For 1 second, I thought the words might land. I thought maybe emergency would matter. Maybe medical would matter. Maybe seeing my name printed in gold instead of buried in a team email would make them sit up straighter. Ryan reached for it before anyone else could. Let me see this. He held it between 2 fingers, the way someone holds a receipt they are about to throw away. His eyes moved over the front, then back to my name. National Emergency Innovation Award, he read, stretching the words until they sounded ridiculous. Wow. Big night for the nerd department. My mother said, Ryan, but there was no warning in it. It was the soft little sound she made when she wanted to appear fair without actually stopping him. I kept my hands folded in my lap. The system helped coordinate medical deliveries during road closures and wildfire smoke. Several hospitals submitted impact reports. My father leaned back. That is nice, Evelyn. But Saturday is the game. We have had those tickets for weeks. I know, I said. The ceremony starts at 7. The arena is only a few miles away. I thought maybe if you wanted to sell the tickets or give them to someone else. Ryan laughed before I finished. Sell Kraken tickets for this? Come on. Brooke picked up her glass. Is anyone famous going to be there? I do not know, I said. That is not really the point. Then what is the point? Ryan asked. You made some hospital app, and now people in suits clap for each other? I felt my face warm, but I kept my voice even. It is not an app. It is routing architecture for time-sensitive medical transport. It helps clinics receive supplies when roads are closed or standard delivery is too slow. So, an app, he said. Brooke smiled into her drink. My mother set the spoon down. Evelyn, honey, I am sure it is very important, but your father has been looking forward to this game. I am not asking anyone to miss something meaningless, I said. I am asking you to consider being there for me. That was when the room changed. Ryan's expression sharpened because I had made my need visible. He looked at the card, then at me. Who cares? He said. You think one nerd trophy makes you special? Then he flicked the invitation across the table. It hit me lightly, but the sound of the paper against my dress seemed louder than it should have. The corner bent when it fell into my lap. No one moved. My mother looked toward the kitchen. My father said, let us not turn this into a whole thing. Brooke muttered, Evelyn, do not make dinner weird. I looked down at my name in gold, creased near the edge, and understood that the cruelty was not only in what Ryan had done. It was in how quickly everyone else made room for it. I picked up the card, wiped a tiny spot of sauce from the corner with my napkin, slid it back into the envelope, and stood. Ryan leaned back with the satisfied smile of someone who believed the room had chosen him again. My mother said I was overreacting. My father said success should make people gracious. Brooke was already looking at her phone. I looked at each of them once, not because I expected shame, but because I wanted to remember their faces before the world showed them what they had dismissed. Enjoy the game, I said. Ryan grinned. Trust me, we will. And for the last time that night, I let them believe they had won. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. Not because the invitation had hurt when it hit me. It had barely touched me. That was part of what made it so hard to explain. If I told someone my brother had thrown a card at me, they might picture something dramatic and ask why I cared so much. They would not understand that the card was not the wound. The wound was the table full of people who watched my proudest moment get treated like a napkin and then acted as if my reaction was the problem. I sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, the porch light from my parents' house shining across the windshield, and I opened the envelope again. The corner was bent. A tiny crease ran through the lower edge of my name. I rubbed it once with my thumb, then stopped because paper does not become uncreased just because you love what it represents. Through the front window, I could see Ryan standing near the dining room, laughing at something on his phone. Brooke moved beside him, probably checking whether the video she had taken of the table looked good enough to post. My mother carried plates toward the kitchen. My father had already turned the television on. The house had reset itself without me. That was what my family did best. They created damage, then returned to comfort so quickly you started wondering if the damage had happened at all. I drove home through light rain, past coffee shops still open, apartment windows glowing, and people walking dogs under hoods and umbrellas. Seattle looked calm in the way cities can look calm when your chest feels too full. At a red light, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan appeared. "Do not be dramatic tonight. We are allowed to have plans." I looked at it until the light changed, then turned the phone face down on the passenger seat. I did not answer. Not because I had a strategy yet, but because every reply I imagined sounded like another attempt to teach basic decency to someone who benefited from never learning it. At home, I placed the invitation on my kitchen counter and made tea I barely drank. I thought about calling Dr. Helen Morris, but it was late, and I did not want the first thing I said about the award to be about my family. So I hung my dress for the ceremony on the closet door instead. Dark blue. Simple, calm. Helen had helped me choose it during lunch 2 days earlier because she said navy made me look steady, and the truth was, I needed all the steadiness I could borrow. The next day at work, I did not mention the dinner. I attended a deployment review at 9, answered a hospital partner's question about cold storage alerts at 11, and spent the afternoon checking a route simulation for a coastal clinic that lost road access during heavy storms. The work helped because it did not ask me to be impressive. It only asked me to be useful in a way that mattered. By Saturday evening, I had packed a small overnight bag and checked into a hotel near the Seattle Convention Center. The ceremony organizers had arranged rooms for honorees because the program involved rehearsals, photographs, and a live community broadcast. I stood in that quiet hotel bathroom, smoothing foundation under my eyes, trying not to look at my phone. No message from my mother. No message from my father. Brooke had posted a picture of her outfit for the game with the caption, "Family Night." Ryan had posted a photo of 4 arena tickets spread on his kitchen counter, the words "finally something worth showing up for" written across the image. I stared at that one longer than I should have, then locked my phone and put it in my purse. At the convention center, everything moved with polished precision. Staff members checked names on tablets. Photographers guided honorees toward a blue backdrop printed with the foundation logo. Volunteers pointed guests toward the ballroom. I kept expecting to feel proud, but mostly I felt hollow in a very formal room. My team found me near the registration table. 2 engineers hugged me. Our operations lead handed me a coffee I had not asked for because he knew I forgot caffeine when I was nervous. Then Helen arrived in a silver gray suit, calm as ever, and looked at my face for half a second longer than usual. "Did they come?" she asked softly. I shook my head. She did not insult them. She did not tell me it did not matter. She just placed one hand over mine and said, "The empty seats do not measure your worth." Inside the ballroom, my reserved family row sat near the front with 4 small name cards arranged neatly. Denise Carter, Harold Carter, Ryan Carter, Brooke Carter. Their chairs were clean, straight, and painfully empty. I made myself look away before grief could turn into something visible. Across town, my family was walking into Climate Pledge Arena, under bright lights, surrounded by jerseys, music, and the smell of popcorn and fried food. I knew because Brooke posted from the entrance, smiling beside my parents while Ryan pointed at the camera like the night already belonged to him. I did not know then that the Foundation's community spotlight was scheduled to air during the first intermission at several partner venues, including that arena. I only knew my family had chosen their seats, and I had to learn how to sit in mine without waiting for them. The ballroom lights lowered at 7:45, and the room changed from polite conversation to something more focused. A woman from the foundation stepped to the podium and welcomed everyone to the National Emergency Innovation Program. She spoke about infrastructure, public service, and the kind of work most people never notice unless the system fails them personally. I sat with my hands folded over my program, feeling the smooth edge of the paper under my fingertips, trying not to look at the four empty chairs marked for my family. Helen sat to my right. Behind us, my team filled half a row with the quiet excitement of people who understood every late night hidden behind that stage. Across town, my family had already found their seats at Climate Pledge Arena. I learned the details later from videos, messages, and Brooke's own posts. Ryan had a tray of nachos, balanced on his knees, and was laughing at something my father said about the opening period. Brooke was filming herself with the ice behind her, turning her face toward the light until she found the angle she liked. My mother wore a blue scarf and smiled at the camera like the night had always been planned perfectly. My father held a drink in one hand and checked player stats on his phone with the calm satisfaction of a man who believed he had chosen the better event. None of them knew the ceremony had a community broadcast partnership with several local venues. I had not known the exact list either. All I had heard from the organizers was that short honoree segments might appear during public events around Seattle to highlight local service projects. It sounded abstract when they explained it during rehearsal. A nice outreach detail. A line in a schedule. Not a trap, not a plan, just timing. In the ballroom, the first two awards went to people whose work deserved every second of applause. A wildfire evacuation mapping team. A nurse-led mobile clinic program. I clapped until my palms warmed, grateful for the darkness because it gave me somewhere to put my face. Then the host looked down at her cards and said the next recognition honored emergency medical logistics across the Pacific Northwest. Helen's hand touched my wrist once, steady and brief. At the same moment, in the arena, the first intermission began. The bright game lights softened. Fans stood for food, stretched their legs, checked their phones. Ryan was still smiling when the giant screen above center ice shifted from hockey highlights to a blue foundation graphic. The arena host announced a community spotlight featuring regional innovators improving emergency response in Washington. At first, my family barely reacted. Why would they? To them, it was just one more public service segment between periods. Then my photograph filled the screen. Not a candid shot, not a family picture where I stood half-cropped at the edge. A professional portrait taken that afternoon against the foundation backdrop. Under it, in clean white letters, was my name. Evelyn Carter, Senior Systems Architect, Northwest Emergency Response Network. The caption beneath it said our routing system had helped hospitals and rural clinics move critical medical supplies during weather closures, wildfire, smoke, and transportation disruptions. In the arena video someone later sent me, Ryan stops chewing first. It is a small thing, almost funny if you do not know the weight behind it. 1 second he is looking up casually, expecting nothing from the screen. The next second his face goes still, his hand frozen near the tray in his lap. Brooke lowers her phone so fast the image blurs. My mother leans forward, her scarf slipping off one shoulder. My father looks up slowly, as if the screen has made a mistake by placing our last name where strangers can see it. Back in the ballroom, the host was reading the introduction I had tried not to memorize. She spoke about closed mountain roads, island clinics, storm delays, cold storage monitoring, and the difference 12 minutes could make when medication was time sensitive. She said the architecture helped dispatchers make safer decisions when normal routes disappeared. She said the system represented a new model of emergency coordination. Then she said my name again. Helen squeezed my hand, and I stood. The walk to the stage felt both too long and too short. The lights were warm. The applause was real. I accepted the award with both hands because it was heavier than I expected, glass and metal catching the stage light. When I reached the microphone, I saw my team first. Not the empty seats, my team. The people who had stayed awake with me when a simulation failed at midnight. The people who knew a routing error was not just a bug, but a possible delay for someone waiting in a clinic with bad roads and no backup. I had written careful remarks, but when I looked out at that room, something simpler came out. This work belongs to every dispatcher, nurse, physician, engineer, and operator who believes quiet systems still carry human lives, I said. Sometimes the work people ignore is the work they depend on when everything goes wrong. The ballroom applauded again. At Climate Pledge Arena, those same words rolled through the speakers while my face stayed above my family. People around them began turning. Someone behind my mother asked, "Carter, is that your daughter?" Another person said, "Wait, if she is being honored tonight, why are you here?" My mother opened her mouth, but no polished answer arrived. My father stared at the screen. Brooke stopped recording herself. And Ryan, who had thrown my invitation away with a laugh, sat under my name while a packed arena of strangers learned what he had refused to read. After the ceremony ended, I stayed in the ballroom for photographs, handshakes, and conversations that sounded polite, but felt almost unreal. People I had never met congratulated me like my work was obvious, like my name belonged on that stage, like there had never been a question about whether I was worth showing up for. Helen stood beside me through most of it, guiding me gently from one introduction to the next whenever my smile started to feel too fixed. My team took pictures around the award, laughing because none of us knew where to put our hands. For almost an hour, I let myself stay inside that room, where the applause had been honest, and nobody needed me to shrink the moment so they could feel comfortable. Then, I finally took my phone out of my purse. The screen looked like an emergency alert. 29 missed calls, dozens of text messages, 3 voicemails from my mother, a string of notifications from social media accounts I barely used. The family group chat, almost silent since dinner, was suddenly moving so fast the messages stacked on top of one another. Ryan was first. "Call me." Then again. "Seriously, Evelyn, call me." Then, "You know I was joking, right?" My mother had written, "We are so proud of you, sweetheart," as if pride were something she could throw over the evening to cover the empty chairs. My father wrote, "Impressive work. We should discuss how to handle media attention as a family." Brooke sent heart emojis, crying emojis, and then a message that said, "I can make a beautiful post about this if you send me your favorite photo." I read everything once, then twice, and felt the difference between before and after slice cleanly through me. Before strangers clapped, my work was a nerd trophy. After strangers clapped, it was a family achievement. Before the screen, they had plans. After the screen, they had pride. Not one of them asked how the ceremony felt. Not one asked whether I had been nervous walking past their empty seats. Not one asked what the award meant to the doctors, clinics, dispatchers, and patients connected to the system. They wanted access to the spotlight, not understanding of the work. I was still holding the award when a message came from Priya, one of the engineers on my team. She wrote, "I am sorry, but you should see this before he deletes it." Under the message was a saved video from Ryan's story. He must have posted it before the game, when humiliating me still felt safe. In the clip, he was at my parents' dining table, holding my invitation between 2 fingers. You could hear Brooke laugh behind the camera. Ryan looked directly into his phone and said, "My sister really thinks we are skipping Kraken seats for some nerd ceremony." Then the camera shifted just enough to catch him flicking the card across the table. My face appeared for less than a second, looking down at my lap. It was not dramatic. That made it worse. It showed exactly what happened. The casual cruelty, the laughter, the way everyone let it pass. By the time I watched it, someone had already placed that clip beside the arena footage of Ryan staring up at my face on the giant screen. Then someone added the broadcast segment from the ballroom. 3 moments played in order. Ryan mocking the invitation, me accepting the award, Ryan sitting frozen beneath my name while strangers around him turned to ask questions. The edit was spreading because people understood the story without needing me to explain it. My mother called again. My father called again. Brooke texted, "We need to get ahead of this." Ryan stopped pretending it was funny and wrote, "Evelyn, please just say we are good." I looked at those 3 words for a long time. We are good. They would have saved him more than they would have healed me. Helen noticed my face and quietly said, "You do not owe anyone immediate access tonight." So I locked the phone, placed it face down on the table, and let their panic ring unanswered. By the time I returned to the hotel room, the award felt heavier than it had on stage. I set it on the desk beside the bent invitation, which I had carried with me because some part of me still wanted both pieces of the night in the same place. One showed what my work had become. The other showed what my family had tried to reduce it to. My phone kept lighting up against the white comforter. My mother wanted me to call before things got worse. My father said we needed a calm family conversation before outsiders twisted the story. Brooke wrote that silence was making everyone look guilty, as if guilt were something my quiet had created. Ryan sent 6 messages in 10 minutes. At first, he tried softening his voice through text. "Come on, Ev. You know I mess around." Then he tried annoyance. "This is getting out of hand." Then came the sentence that made my body go still. "You need to fix this. People are dragging me over one little card thing." One little card thing. Not the invitation he had thrown at me. Not the night he mocked work that had taken 11 years to build. Not the empty chairs. Not the public scramble for pride after strangers had done what they refused to do. Just one little card thing. I sat at the small hotel desk and opened every screenshot Priya had sent. Ryan's story. The arena clip. The broadcast segment. The family messages before and after the screen changed everything. I saved them all. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had learned that people who rewrite the past usually start by asking you to delete the evidence. Then I opened my work email and wrote to our communications director. I explained, calmly and briefly, that no member of my family had permission to speak on behalf of me, my team, the foundation, or the emergency network. I asked that any media requests involving my personal story be routed through me and Helen. I copied Helen because professional boundaries mattered, and because I trusted her not to confuse privacy with shame. She replied 8 minutes later. "We will keep the focus on the work. Proud of you." That was the first message of the night that did not ask anything from me. After that, I opened the family chat. My hands were shaking, but my voice in the message was steady. I wrote that I appreciated the congratulations, but I would not participate in any post, interview, article, or statement framing the award as a family achievement. I wrote that the work belonged to the engineers, dispatchers, nurses, physicians, operators, and clinics who had carried it for years. I wrote that they did not have permission to use my name, photo, award, or story to repair their reputations, promote their businesses, or pretend they had supported a night they chose not to attend. Then I added the line I knew they could not soften. "If anyone asks why you were not there, tell them the truth. You were invited." Ryan threw the invitation at me. "You laughed. And you chose the game." The typing bubbles appeared immediately. My mother said I was being cruel. My father said success should make a person gracious. Brooke said a positive family post would help everyone heal. Ryan called me 3 times, then wrote, "You are loving this." I answered only him. "Ryan, if the truth makes you look cruel, the problem is not my truth. It is your behavior." Then I declined his next call, blocked his number, muted the family chat, and sat in the quiet until the room finally stopped feeling like a place where I had to defend my own dignity. By Monday morning, Ryan's name was attached to a story he could not charm his way out of. That mattered because Ryan had built his entire adult reputation on trust. His real estate profile showed him shaking hands on porches, laughing beside young couples, and standing with my parents at a neighborhood charity fundraiser. His slogan was, "Helping families find where they belong." After the clip spread, that sentence started appearing under reposts with comments he could not delete. At first, he tried to treat it like a misunderstanding. He deleted his original story and posted a black screen with white text saying people should not judge family dynamics from a few seconds online. That might have slowed things down if the evidence had been vague, but it was not vague. His own video showed him mocking the invitation. The arena footage showed him watching my face fill the screen. The broadcast showed what the invitation had actually been for. By noon, His brokerage had received emails. By late afternoon, one client, preparing to list a waterfront property, requested another agent. By Tuesday, the company removed Ryan from a community campaign about integrity and local roots. He called it cancel culture in a message Brooke forwarded to me, as if I was supposed to rush in and translate his consequences into comfort. I did not. People were not reacting because siblings had a private disagreement. They were reacting because he had publicly ridiculed meaningful work, then tried to call it normal when the attention turned against him. My mother faced a different kind of consequence. She had spent years presenting us as a close, supportive family, the kind that showed up with matching scarves, smiling photos, and long birthday captions about blessings. After the video spread, neighbors began asking careful questions that were worse than direct criticism. Was Evelyn hurt you missed the ceremony? Did you really choose the game? Did Ryan actually throw the invitation? At church, someone congratulated her on raising such an accomplished daughter, then added that it must have been heartbreaking not to be there. My mother left early. My father was angry, but not reflective. He said people were too sensitive. He said Ryan had made one bad joke. He said I should have controlled the narrative before strangers did. Brooke tried to save the family image by posting a childhood photo of us with a caption about always knowing her little sister would change the world. Within an hour, 3 people asked why she had been at the arena instead of the ceremony. She deleted the post and emailed me that the internet was disgusting and I needed to speak up. I did not answer. She had not wanted my voice when I invited her. She only wanted it when my silence cost her something. Ryan lasted 4 days before sending a real apology from a new number. It was long, messy, and missing his usual performance. He wrote that he had been jealous. He wrote that when my face appeared above him, he realized he had made himself small by trying to make me smaller. He said he was sorry for throwing the invitation, sorry for laughing, and sorry for asking me to fix it before asking if I was hurt. I read the message twice. There was a time when those words would have pulled me back into the role of family repairwoman. But an apology does not become a key just because someone finally finds it under pressure. I did not hate Ryan. I hoped he learned something. I simply did not reply. The months after that night did not turn into the victory parade people imagine when a story goes public. My work became busier, not easier. The emergency network received new funding, and Helen used the attention to expand partnerships with rural clinics, tribal health centers, and response teams that had been asking for better options for years. I spent less time reading comments and more time helping improve cold storage tracking, safer landing protocols, and training materials for new engineers. That mattered more to me than headlines. I also began mentoring students, especially quiet young women who reminded me of who I used to be, the girl fixing everyone else's problems while wondering whether her own dreams were too inconvenient to mention. I told them not to chase applause. I told them to build something useful with dignity, and to remember that valuable work is still valuable when no one at home understands it. My family kept trying for a while. My mother sent messages through relatives. My father asked whether enough time had passed to move forward. Brooke posted vague quotes about forgiveness. Ryan contacted me only once after that apology, and I still did not answer. Maybe he was changing. Maybe he was only learning that pressure no longer worked. Either way, I kept my distance. I still have the bent invitation in a drawer beside the award program. I keep it there because that card taught me who could throw my dream away, and that night taught me I could pick it back up without them.